Who said inner judge, by the way? Is that you, Anthony?
Yeah.
What?
Did you even finish PQ school?
Oh, yeah. No, I was.
Wait, you
didn't
dropped
say
out of
hello,
PQ
welcome
school?
I didn't even start it.
Oh my!
Got as far as taking the quiz though.
That's because your inner
Yeah,
judge got you.
I took the
before you could even
quiz.
take it.
No, I took the quiz. I already knew what it's about. I already did. It's beyond me, and I am beyond it.
Oh goodness.
We're not talking about that right now.
Anthony's not so good at the growth.
Brooke's just mad that I evaluated her.
All right. Hi, everybody out there watching. Before we get to our topic today, remember to like, share, join in the conversation. I don't know if you can hear it right now, but literally there are gardeners going off downstairs, and also a somebody with a like table saw. So this is fantastic.
I can't hear it, so
I can't hear it.
Thank goodness my microphone is working well. But make sure you guys like, subscribe, all of that good stuff, and join in the conversation. We do this live so we can hear from you. So we'd love to do that. We'd love to hear from y'all. Y'all has really worked its way into my vernacular, guys.
It's a good word.
Wow. Where's that from?
I think it's from Sam. I'm gonna just blame Sam for this.
Yeah.
Sam is gonna be the ideation of my y'alling, and we'll get credit for it from here henceforth.
If you guys didn't know, Sam's from Texas, so he wears the 10
He's actually from New Jersey. Thank you. But
Well, he is in Texas.
he has taken on the local
Texan lexicon.
Texan. Yeah,
I have moments where I'll pick up the y'all.
Texicon.
Yeah.
Texicon.
Texicon.
It's great.
What are
I
we talking
y'all.
about?
It's just become a thing. I'm just yawling now. It's easy. I like it. Y'all is a
easy.
fun way
Yeah.
of talking. So, alrighty, y'all. I'm just catching up on things. What is our topic today?
We're talking about quiet coaching.
Wait, no.
Or quiet leader.
It's quiet leadership. How to be a
Quiet and very quiet.
Quiet leadership.
Leadership 101.
Maybe we should ask. Maybe that's something that we should talk about. Like, what are the first characteristics of a leader that come to mind? Like, just say it. Don't think too hard.
Assertive.
Get it out.
Empathetic.
Determined.
Determined, assertive,
Inspiring.
inspiring,
Goal-oriented.
goal-oriented,
I don't know.
empathetic.
But empathetic, yeah.
Jerome,
Dictator.
Oh. Vocal is definitely what comes to mind. for me.
vocal. Okay.
Confident.
Asshole.
Confident.
Confidence.
Anthony.
You said the first thing that came to my mind. That's what I thought.
Okay. Well, barring Anthony's responses, what? So quiet was not among those items, right? I don't think quiet was one thing anybody said. So, not almost feels like it's in opposition or sort of fighting with this idea of being quiet and being a leader. We did talk about paradoxical leadership styles, and this is not something we talked about, but I would definitely say it's something that sort of falls in there. But when you really think about it, I think it goes really well together once you really break it down. So what do we mean when we say quiet leadership, folks?
That's a good question. What do we mean?
What is a quiet leader?
They attributed a lot of the nature of an introvert to be the quiet leader, but if you're balanced, I think you could be extrovert who visits introvert as well.
An ambivert.
Amnivert, yeah. I tend to be introvert, amnivert, side of things myself.
I'm definitely both.
Mm-hmm.
Like I love to be around people until I don't want to be around people.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, okay, now I need
Done.
yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that distinction too in like the readings that we did. Is like people just are say introverted leaders are synonymous with quiet leaders. I don't like thinking introverts and
Oh, I didn't hear him.
I don't know. You're breaking up,
Yeah,
Anthony.
what's going on with your sound?
Something's wrong with your audio. Could you get closer to your mic or do something?
Am I not being loud enough?
I
Whoa.
guess not quiet, man. Now
Let's
we can hear you.
see.
You just was like garbling. So
It cut in and out.
better. You're better now. So
You're good.
don't
You're good.
stress on it. Just talk
Yeah.
more.
I don't know what the hell I was saying. I was saying I don't like the introvert extrovert like dynamic because I'm 100% sure you can be very extroverted person but a quiet leader. What I think is meant by quiet leader is that it's somebody. I mean, it's in the word quiet. It's opposite of loud, where you're loud, you're in charge, you're heard by many people, versus quiet leader, you're behind the scenes, possibly leading from behind, or maybe manipulating, how things are going in subtler ways. You don't have to exert your authority as often as a quiet leader.
We wouldn't think of a dictator as being a quiet leader. I would.
I might disagree. There's okay, so here's an example. I was looking at examples of like real life quiet leaders. And then I was looking into, okay, what are the bad leaders who are quiet leaders? So Putin and Joseph Stalin could be examples of dictators who were also quiet leaders.
Well, because they're doing things behind the scenes where you can't see. Like
Yeah.
yeah.
It's more so about how you do things versus, I guess, if you're a good leader or not, or inspiring to people. It's the way in which you get your work done effectively.
Yeah.
And so being a quiet leader, somebody who commands a lot of respect, if I'm thinking of the better leaders, for some reason now I'm only thinking of like fictional people like
okay.
Picard from Star Trek or Ned Stark from Game of Thrones. People who command a lot of respect and lead by example with how they think maybe the organizations are run are other examples of quiet leaders.
I like that. Good.
That's it. I'm done talking. Someone else
Very
talk.
nicely said.
I like that part about leading by example. I think that's probably one of the most powerful ways you can lead. You definitely have to set the example, whether you're a quiet leader or a vocal leader. I think that's integral. At a point, if people see that you're not practicing what you're preaching, then I think it's going to be a bit hard to keep them there and follow, or not necessarily follow, but to look up to you as a leader. So I think that's a huge part of it. And again, I personally think that that's probably one of the strongest styles of leadership is to do it by leading by example.
When I think of a quiet leader, I think of someone who is doing things that aren't outwardly viewed as leadership, but have a leadership impact. So just again, like the way the person is showing up, the way they're connecting with their team, just little things that aren't necessarily what we would list as leadership qualities. That's kind of what I think of when I think of quiet leadership.
Like the underrated.
Yeah.
There's a thing that I read, and Anthony needs to go la 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 fingers in the air, because it spoke about how the quiet leadership creates the family within the workplace.
Mm.
And one of the articles or something I saw.
Well, my question would be, can you have a family with or without a quiet leader? And I'm speaking literally, like a literal family could be led by the head of a household who's both quiet and not quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, if we're getting really literal, and really literal, a family by definition is blood, right? So, yeah, it exists with or without a leader. if we're being very literal, right? I guess so what is that we can go, I think we're going to get lost in the weeds here. So I'm going to be quiet.
Great leadership tactic.
Yeah.
You.
Nice,
Well-
quiet leadership.
Yeah, we also took a test. None of us are quiet leaders.
No, not one of us.
At least those who actually took the test.
If we believe everything that test has to tell us, right?
Yes, which
With
we
some
do.
critic.
I'm sure it's completely accurate.
100%.
Which is what. Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know why we took the test in the first place, but
It's fun.
We always do.
I
we like tests. I like tests.
Yeah, yeah.
You can't fail at it.
I like holding the results over other people's heads and emphasizing the good results.
Which kind of test
Uh,
are you speaking of? Are you talking about like personality tests, or are you just talking
Just
about
any test.
general?
Misha, we're talking about if you want to check out Misha's in the
Misha.
Slack channel.
I mean,
In
yeah,
the
we'll
live.
pop it in here. We can pop it in here. Principals, you.
Oh yeah, you're
We
right.
can share our.
I'll do it.
We're giving some free
Yes, it takes
sponsorship.
Why not? No, share. I'm happy to share our.
Wait, we're sharing the test link?
Yeah, I just dropped
Yes.
the link so that other people, if they want to
We
play
should
it,
share it with a disclaimer that it's really long.
Yes.
really
Oh
awesome.
my gosh.
A long, detailed test.
But that means, so circling back to our quiet leadership topic, let's bring this to coaching. Let's circle this into the coaching realm. I'm just leaving it at that. I'm leaving.
Okay.
The rest is up on you now.
You have to be a quiet leader as coach
1,000%. It's
because you are in charge of the coaching session and the coaching relationship. Well, we also say, and it's both true, that the client is leading the coaching session. That's true, but as the coach, you're leading the coaching relationship, which is different because you probably know a lot more about coaching than your client does, and you know what kind of questions to ask and what kind of questions to avoid to lead your client to forming their own, solutions and making their own discoveries. So you're not leading by saying, "Hey, you have to do this. You're going to do this." You're just knowing how to ask the right questions to get the best results out of your client. That's part of being a quiet leader as a coach.
Yeah, 1,000%. You are a quiet leader when you are in the coach's seat. I think about, the moments in coaching where the client will straight up, well, what would you do? That's your moment of leadership, of quiet leadership. Like you were saying, Anthony, we say the client leads, but then there's moments where the coach is leading the relationship. I love how you said that. That was perfect.
Lisa Jerome, how does quiet leadership manifest?
Empathetic. We're listening to how that client is sharing whatever details they're sharing with us. Let's sidestep for a minute. When we're friends with that person and they share things, a lot of the times we want to contribute and give what our perspective is of that moment. Stepping back when we are in the coaching hat and we're living that experience, we're not in the place of telling that client what they ought to be doing, right? We're in that place to hear, being empathetic, hear what they're sharing, and share that in such a way. I know there's echo today. I'm hearing myself. I'm not sure what to do. And so getting back to the empathetic experience means I don't take over my client's growth, right? I'm there to be that listening ear and gather their information, perhaps remind them of that information as they are speaking what they've shared, sometimes allows for them to open up that next level of understanding on what they want to do. So I would say that empathy is a really big part of being the coach that's the leader, that is not leading.
It kind of overlaps with like another style of leadership, which might be more familiar with people, which is like the supportive leader, where their job is just to not get in the way of their team members from doing what they need to do to achieve their goals. So, what a supportive leader wants to do is remove barriers, increase, motivation where it can be, reduce friction in other places, and just make sure all the tools are there for their team members. Now, you're not literally, removing the barriers for your client as a coach, but you are asking them questions in such a way where you evaluate, like, what are the friction points? Where are you maybe, what are the not barriers? I'm thinking of the word we use, blocks. Where are the blocks in your goal? Things like that, and then working with the client on how to remove those blocks.
It's all, I mean, I think a big part of being a quiet leader too is and this plays in the coaching realm and into what you've all been sharing is when we're talking about, it's about the team, right? It's about the work everybody is doing as a whole. And I think a quiet leader, as well as a coach, is about developing the success of others, right? So the success of their team more than being the center of what is going on in every situation, right? So there's a humbleness to a quiet leader. And I think that same humbleness applies to us as coaches. We have to be humble and not have all the answers and not have the best way and not have all of these traits that come with what we would think of as the leader that is the extrovert, that is, everything we said at the beginning of this live.
Yeah.
As a coach, we tap into being humble and curious, and then using our skill set quietly without the need for praise, the need for, and celebrate the successes of our client and their growth. And that I think applies in the coaching seat and in this leader seat as well. It's that leader wants their team to be growing and be more successful than them and take it, keep building. And they celebrate in the successes of their, even though we don't celebrate as coaches, when the door is closed and the client is gone, I'm sure we feel a sense of pride when our clients are successful. And the same for the leader who is the quiet leader when their team is successful, feeling proud of what their team is doing but doing so in a way that it makes it about them and not about the leader.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's such an important element of this quiet leadership style. It makes me excited.
As a coach, you're leading that session contract, that session agreement. That is your quiet leadership. The client doesn't know that you're leading them in that way. But it is absolutely a coach's responsibility. And the time, okay, we've got about 15 minutes left. I mean, those are moments of quiet leadership that come from the coach for sure.
So do you think setting boundaries contributes to? Yeah.
There's on a very surface level, even outside of the session, you've got to lead the client coach relationship. To maintain a healthy relationship, you've got to lead in understanding that this is the relationship here in this session. It doesn't extend beyond that. So I think that's part of it, creating boundaries in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think that can be done quietly or not quietly, really. It's in the contract.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's kind of being a quiet leader in that sense. Since it's the contract that's doing the speaking.
Yeah. True. Very true.
We're just both abiding by this contract we've set out. I don't need to explicitly state everything because I'm coming to the coaching relationship with the expectation we're both on the same page.
And you've read this, covered it, and we're not
contract.
going to have to go through every detail. And we assume that you, having signed it, understand everything within it. Very true. Very true. Very kind of cool way to think of it. I see.
You know what? Now I'm thinking like the most literal quiet leader. Just write everything down. Never, ever talk to anyone you work with. Just have it in writing, and then just quietly just send it in an email.
We do that a lot of times in Slack, though.
Yeah.
Right. So, and that's I think the other important bit in this too, like and this is sort of stepping back out of the coaching realm, is that the quiet leader knows what work they have to do, and they will Anthony. They will sit down in quiet and get that work done and allow their team to do the same. I think there's a knowledge there, like, this is what I need to accomplish. I'm gonna get my work done, and that might be the little nudges, the little leadership moments, but they do that in a way that isn't impeding the work of others, and the expectation, I think, is there. I would also think for their team, for them to be able to put their nose down and get work done. It's sort of like a trust, right? It's that you're trusting one another, and it's this trust exchange. It really is true. Coaches, there is so much crossover between
Overlap.
a quiet leader and a coach. It's really,
Yes.
it is very cool.
Yeah.
So where does I guess being a quiet leader not in your advantage sometimes? I think it might, and if I'm using like coaches as the example, I think it's the kind of leader people are looking for and what they're wanting in terms of like a marketing sense. You might be disadvantaged by coming off as a quiet leader in your marketing, or maybe in the sort of situations people are looking for leaders in general.
So tell me what you mean by that, because what I'm hearing is different than what you're saying.
Yeah, what I'm trying to say is, I think when people are, we've already discussed this, like, what do people typically think in a leader? All those qualities we said at the beginning, that they're loud, maybe obnoxious, confident, maybe in your face a little bit. If I'm in the market for a leader and I want a leader for my organization or company, I might overlook the quiet leaders. I might not initially think to consider a quiet leader.
Unless you're this woman, Susan Cain, who has built her entire business on being quiet. I put the link in the chat so everybody can check her out.
Well,
she's made a marketing thing.
I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm saying it's a niche market for a quiet leader. Where in a world where most people think leaders are more forthright, more out there.
I think that it can be dangerous, let's say, or if you're not communicating with your team. So if you're not communicating what your intentions are, what the full picture is, and if you're positioning yourself in a way of withholding information that maybe the whole team needs to know, or just withholding information in general. Like if I'm a quiet leader and I'm not communicating that we do it something here, we say we're in deep work and we put a little brain on our status, and it means we're going to be ignoring you because we got to get things done, right? So but we communicate that, and I could see how in situations where you're not communicating what you're doing, it could look like you aren't doing anything. I could also see in situations where if you're not sharing the whole picture because you're being quiet about some things or withholding some things, you're not giving your team all of the tools that they need fully.
Well, it feels like a disconnect. What you're saying, describing, it feels like a big disconnect.
So it's like, also it's like maybe you're being opaque as a leader, or like people don't really know what's going on behind the scenes, and maybe they can't really trust your intentions, or they're not fully trusting in like your process as a quiet leader because they don't have all the information of it.
Because they don't have the whole picture. And so I'm not assuming in this situation that anybody's up to anything or doing anything wrong. What I'm saying is you have to understand there are people in the world that need a clear understanding of things in order for them to be able to move forward and be successful and do. And so if you don't give that to them, and also if I'm not telling people what's going on, I'm assuming I know better than them. That's like assuming that I can have the whole picture, but not everybody else can have the whole picture. I can see situations where maybe, it's like a weird balance where maybe you don't want to tell everybody everything, but at the same time too, I think that and maybe this is just because of my nature, I would rather over communicate than under communicate. I would rather tell you absolutely everything going on, so that you have a whole picture of the full picture, and then we can move with everybody on having an idea of what the full picture is, right? And I could see now, if we take it to the next step, a leader that is doing something that is sort of underhanded, or isn't sharing the whole picture, something's going wrong, and they're not telling you, you're not allowing your team to help in that situation. I guess at that point, are you a leader anymore? I don't know. Maybe a leader into bad situations. I'm just talking to myself here because you guys are side chatting.
I'm telling people to side chat or just stop side chatting.
I'm just calling people out on it. You think you're getting away with it? It's not gonna. I mean, I see. When there's silence because I'm the only one speaking, the discussion is no longer happening.
Wait, Brooke, what was your question?
I'm gonna dismantle, or I'm just gonna. We're gonna no longer be allowed to side chat.
You block that.
We were just talking. I was just mentioning that if you have a leader that is not sharing the full picture with you, and maybe things are not going, as well as we would like them to appear. You're not seeing the full picture. At what point are they no longer the leader?
Mm.
Like how do you distinguish between, like, what makes somebody a leader?
Mm.
And at what point do you lose that title?
I don't think you need to. I think that's kind of, they're mutually exclusive. I don't think you need to see any of the full picture to, be still considered a leader.
Okay.
I'm thinking of like super organizations. Like think of like the United States of America. How much do you actually not know is probably
science.
A lot larger than what you do know. Yes, science as well.
And many corporations, right? Many corporations do not give any information, and even C-suite, they probably don't have. You've got to be in the, upper chambers to privy information. Yeah.
But you are supposed to be provided with enough information to be able to do your task or fulfill your role correctly. You should sort of know how it fits into maybe the level above you, the level below you, and maybe the levels adjacent to you.
I think that intention is important. I mean, because I was in a situation where the information flow stopped from my leader. And it made me not be, and I was a leader, and it made me not be able to do my job. It made me not be able to know how to move or what my next step was. And it was really ultimately a failing process. Ultimately, the whole thing ended in a lack of success because there was a lack of communication, and it was very frustrating for me because I was like, do you want me to succeed in this? Because it feels like you want me to fail right here. Like you want that because you're not talking to me or sharing information with me. And that was really disheartening, and made it hard for me to lead. I did the best I could. And fortunately, my team loved me and we did the best we could. But at the end of the day, it was a very hard situation to be in. And I would say they were not leading at the point that they stopped communicating, and they stopped being a leader. And I guess really that's what it is. They chose to stop leading. So,
So I guess I kind of answered her question. You're no
Yeah.
longer leader when you no longer lead.
when you're no longer leading, which means that you're not working towards, you're not assisting whoever is supposed to be on your team to success. When you're, not allowing for success. Oh, that's horrible. My stomach feels icky when I think about that or hear those. Like, it just makes me feel gross.
Yeah, it could see a lot of misinformation that could lead to overthinking in one direction, and not knowing builds a story. We all have our ability to tell ourselves a story with our overthinking when we feel left out, for sure.
Give an example. It's relatively recent. My sister, fortunately, she's out of the situation now, but she had leaders that were too quiet. The only time they spoke up was to scold and to mention when something was going wrong, and they didn't have an understanding of the process. So it was really difficult it was impossible for my sister to lead, because she was also in a managerial position. So impossible to the point where she had to leave that job. She could no longer work there.
That's what my situation was too. I ended up having to leave. Yeah.
It seems it just compounds. It just makes it worse when you yourself are a leader and you have a leader above you who is not fulfilling the
They're
terms of
dumb.
either. Oh, what did you say, Lisa?
Yeah, so what we're talking about are two different things, though.
Yeah.
Quiet leader still has a voice, still
Yes.
has an assertion, right? Versus the stopping of communication.
Absolutely. Yes.
So those are two different concepts. Quiet doesn't mean no communication.
So quiet versus silent.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, and that's what I mean. That's why I think it's good to discuss. To differentiate, like, this is what we're talking about. We're not, when you have to still fulfill that role as leader. You can't let go of that bit and just run to quiet, because that's not. There's still jobs to be done. As a
You can't
leader.
hide under a rock. There's no hiding under a rock.
No hiding under a rock. And not
Jen,
if you're being a leader.
You had something you wanted to bring up.
Yeah. So what do you guys think about this concept? It's about consultation calls in coaching. So what do you think about the idea that most clients that come to the consultation are subconsciously looking for leadership, and they are quietly evaluating that in the consultation call without even really being aware of it? It's just happening. So I've heard this, and I think it can be true sometimes, for sure. I'm just wondering, how often is this true? What do you guys think about this?
Can I go? Okay. I think when it's a first-time client, I think that's probably true. I think when a client is experienced, I don't believe that's true. For example, I had a very experienced, not just but a few very experienced clients who have used different coaching methodologies to assist their leg up, whatever that is. And being educated in that sense of already knowing what the basic concept of our coaching behavior and mindset is going to be, allowed them to recognize that they were in charge. A newbie who's never really heard of this, I'll assume that it's like, and that's even, let's say, a football coach, where they're being directed more often than they are not directing. And that's even changing today on what that coaching means in the sports world. So it depends, is where I would go with that.
I think it's a really good distinction between the newbie client who's never been coached before versus a client who's been coached. You don't know what you don't know. The people that have been coached know more. So
yeah,
knowing what you know now, you're going to look through at a coach in a totally different lens than the Jen of 4 years ago or 5 years ago, right? It's going to be a whole different lens. I know this from personal experience, because I have done for various reasons. We'll just leave it at that. Different little intro calls with other coaches that were big name coaches, just to get in the room, see what their style was, see how it went, And there's definitely been moments where I was rubbed very wrong by the approach and the telling. And then there have been other moments where I was highly impressed with what happened in there. So it can definitely go both ways. And that's, again, a knowledge though that is totally different than what I had before. Even when I was figuring out a therapist, I got in that room and approached my intro calls with my therapist in a different way because of coaching, because I looked at it and I was, oh, you're using these tools, you're using these tools, you're giving this, will I take you, and it's funny. I think that coaching, something it does to us who know what coaching is, I think we automatically become a little more confident in our own choices. And I've found for me, because of that little extra confidence, that boost, that it's been drilled into me that I know what's best for me. When somebody tries to give me advice in those spaces, I get icky, gross feeling. I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't like it. There are other situations, but not in a coaching space, where I will look for what's best for me. But even then, I want somebody that's willing to explore with their expertise. I want that in a consultant too. I want a consultant with coaching skills.
Yes, definitely.
So
Absolutely. It took me a long time to get this voice, and I don't want somebody else telling me what my voice should be.
Yeah.
To answer Jen's question, I think it's split between Lisa's answer about people who not knowing and then wanting somebody to be like a leader, and then people who just want a cheerleader, want somebody who motivates them or to be held accountable as well, which aren't coaching things that you do, but that's what they're looking for. The new client sometimes who's not aware of how coaching is distinct from all those things. But as soon as somebody has coaching, like from ICF, somebody who's been accredited by ICF, that's probably, thrown out the door, and they kind of expect what a real coaching relationship should look like.
The other weird though dichotomy in this that I have going on inside me right now, kind of fighting with me, is because I love to learn and I love to so I do like to work with people who have expertise, right? Because I feel like I'm going to learn a lot from them. And there are moments I absolutely want to be led. I want someone to tell me what to do. I mean, there are moments when my brain's just fried and I'm like, I don't want to think about it. You tell me. If you say go left, I'm going left. But then also, like, in spaces where I am in a learning space, I do like to be learning from somebody who really knows what they're talking about. And that's, I guess, more when I'm willing to be led. And that's a leadership space though, too, right? As a teacher, as a, educator, it may not be, 100% coaching, but I think that it still applies a bit with group coaching and things like that. That expertise piece is important to me in my leadership, be it quiet or otherwise. Just rabbit hole here. So
I think if I'm hearing correctly, and I'm aligning with it, if I'm hearing correctly, we can learn from anybody.
That's true. We can learn from watching other people fail at things, can't we?
We can learn from the louder teacher, as well as we can learn from the quieter teacher. When I have gone into some of my learning, and there's been a couple times that I stomp my feet a few times by what are you teaching here? But for the most part, I try to go in and have, a new mindset on what can I learn here today? And that's what you're describing is what can I learn from this person that's up in front of me?
I mean, I'm thinking about in our class, like our classes, we have wonderful and boisterous and outgoing facilitators. Absolutely do. That they have to talk for 8-9 hours straight, and they're definitely being leaders. And I don't know, is there an opportunity for them to be a quiet leader?
Probably when they're in observation, probably when they're observing, they have the ability to jump back into the quiet leader type role versus the presenter.
I don't even know if teacher sort of overlaps with leader. I kind of think those, in my mind, they're exclusive roles. Like a leader is not a teacher, a teacher's not a leader, in like the strict sense of like the job a teacher versus the job being a leader. But there are overlaps as well with like how you lead a classroom environment. And it's kind of the same in leading a coaching environment. You sort of set the boundaries of what is acceptable in your classroom environment. You ask questions that lead towards the answers that are correct, because in our classes, there are correct answers about how you should coach.
I was just going to say there is absolutely opportunity for our coaches or our facilitators to be quiet leaders in that space.
Yeah.
And that's when they introduce coaching skills. They ask the questions that lead the students to the answers without having to tell them, without having
Yes.
Because I'll tell you, I learn exponentially better with an intriguing question, with a question that makes me think, and where I have to come up to with the answer myself.
Yeah.
I learned so much better that way than you. It's just, if you're just talking to me, it starts to go in one ear and out the other. And I think that there's 1,000%, which is way more not realistic, an opportunity for a facilitator, someone in a group experience, and a teacher to be a quiet leader.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of opportunity there.
And
Yeah.
to disagree a little bit with Anthony, I think a job title is a job title. I think within all job titles, there can be a leader or not a leader.
True.
So our facilitators, they will sometimes answer questions direct, but they will sometimes coach you instead. And that, to me, like you were saying, Brooke, that was so powerful. I remember in 102 asking Dan a question, and I thought he was just going to straight up tell me the answer from his expertise. And he coached me on it, and I got my own answer. And that has served me to this day. I've never had to revisit that question. It was like just deeply ingrained, imprinted on me from that class moment. So much more powerful than he giving me the answer. Truly.
And that's I would call that a quiet leadership moment.
Yes.
Right?
So how do they know when to choose those moments and the answer? That's what makes them so talented at what they do.
I mean, oftentimes in leadership roles, you just have to make quick decisions for the sake of time and efficiency. So there are times where a quiet leader should just like, this is the answer, this is what needs to be done, or here is a decision that we're just going to go with. But knowing the difference between doing that versus, okay, when do I coach the teammates? When do I sort of let them take the lead or take responsibility and explore is probably the difference between a quiet leader and a loud leader.
There's a balance.
I'm sure you could do that. I'm thinking of like a volume too. I don't know why. That's not what we're talking about. It's like how loud you talk.
You have to speak loud. I had a GM that deliberately spoke quietly.
Oh, I hate that. Oh, it irritates me.
He would never raise his voice. He always spoke quietly so that everybody had to be quiet and listen to what he was saying. So it really made you zip up and tune in, because you were going to miss something important if you did not. If you were, if you didn't turn your internal noise down, the outside, like you had to hyper focus and attune your ear to what he was saying. And it was a leadership it was something that was taught to him by his mentor that he adopted and carried into his. And I'm sure others have done the same, where he would deliberately, and it was a way of sort of commanding everybody's attention, and it worked. Drove me crazy sometimes, but worked.
And that's why quiet leaders should mumble their words and like, look down at their feet and like kind of, don't make eye contact with anybody, and then people will respect you and listen to you. That's
I
the
think there's
takeaway.
also something, there's a psychology to it too, right? That we get nervous, we're going to miss out on something. We get a little FOMO, and we get worried that loud noises can be very abrasive to us. So like you have to like tune in, but then, I mean, I don't know, you go both ways sometimes.
Well, I still feel like I'm going to lose the information because it's too quiet.
Right? That's the other side, flip side too,
Yeah,
right?
and then you have to deal with other people who are just like loud or noisy or whatever. Or if you're in the back of the room, I've had experiences with that where I'm just like, I'm sitting in the back. I need someone to speak up.
Yes.
Please.
But what it did would make me seek him out for the answers.
Yeah.
If I didn't get them in the group environment.
Mm.
Which also allowed.
Which could be a bad thing if you're a leader.
It might be a bad thing for him, but it was also a good thing because
But I think that's leadership.
it made me form a connection with him that I might have, if he was shouting from the rooftops, I might never have created that personal connection with him, that, forged that bridge where we got to know one another. That probably never would have happened had he been a very boisterous human being.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would have just raised my hand, been boisterous right back, and and not been willing to seek him out for the answers. But I had to seek him out to be successful. So it's an interesting, literal quiet leader tactic.
Yeah.
So, well, we have a few minutes left. This does tie in beautifully to coaching, and normally by this point I'm looking at the clock and I'm saying, okay, we should probably circle this back into coaching, and now I don't think that there's a huge need for that. So do we have final thoughts? Do we have anything that we want to share?
I think there's room for both personality styles, whether you're out there and in front of everybody and they get energy from that, or whether you're the more quiet version of being that leader. I think we can learn and grow from both. I think I appreciate the level of attention quiet leaders are now getting, as opposed to you're only a good leader if you're loud in front of people. So I appreciate that attention.
I can go back to me again early on in this live stream. I mentioned that I think being a quiet leader is probably, for me at least, one of the most powerful ways to lead. And I think what I've come to terms with is quiet leaders kind of tend to be curators of an experience, kind of like we were mentioning, where you, as someone that is, as the leader, I hate to say followers, but those that you're managing, I guess is maybe a better way to put it, for them to come up with their own solutions, kind of like what Jen was speaking about when Dan knew exactly when to ask a question, to the point where she ended up having experience herself, where now it's ingrained in her. I think that is probably what I've come to terms with as to why I think that's such a powerful way of leading. They're curators of experience, and they teach you things that last a lifetime, as opposed to just giving you a quick fix solution and then proceed.
Yeah, Jerome, I think you just tapped into something that seems really true, and that is a great leader knows when to coach, knows when to coach their employees or whoever they're leading into having their own answers surface, because that really is that really is powerful and that is life changing and that is potentially game changing for the company. This is a good topic. It's really, really relevant to coaching. And I didn't realize that until we started really getting into it. And I'm like, oh, there's so much overlap here. So this is good.
My takeaway would probably be that, and this is probably more relevant to leaders in general than coaching leaders or the coaches, but the quiet leader and loud leader, I guess, as the opposite, are less personality types and they're more tools that you can use. I think a lot of people who are naturally quiet leaders or maybe naturally loud leaders, they think, well, that's my personality. And so I'll find ways to incorporate this in whatever system I'm in. You can choose to do the opposite. You can choose to be a quiet leader and you can choose to be a loud leader as it best suits you. And you are probably benefiting yourself greatly by learning when and how to use each style of leadership, and when it's appropriate and when, you might be better suited doing what is more comfortable to you. So my advice would be loud leaders learn how to be quiet leaders and quiet leaders how to be more, extroverted and loud.
Round out that skill set.
Yes, round it out.
I have a sort of metaphor. There's a saying that goes on, and then I know, and Lisa, you haven't given your final thoughts yet, but I haven't forgotten you. There's a saying, and it's a lion doesn't have to tell you it's a lion. And I think about it, and I go, okay, what are all the ways a lion can tell you it's a lion, though, right? If you see it, it's a lion. It's obvious, right? It's got claws. It's going to command respect. And I'm sure the sound of a lion also commands a tremendous amount of respect. It is by virtue of what it is and what it is doing and how it exists is what it is. And I think you can apply that to this title of leader. A leader doesn't have to tell you it's a leader. It doesn't have to be a title. It doesn't have to be they are leading by virtue of what they are doing and the actions they are taking. But whether that be speaking up, whether that be doing something quietly behind the scenes, whether that be what it is, whatever they may have on their plate. But a leader shouldn't have to tell you they are a leader. They should just be capable of doing it and using a breadth and width of skills to do so. And coaching should absolutely be among those skills. Just a final little shout out there to coaching. Lisa?
No, I already did share mine, but I will add one more thing. It in that leader, yes, round out your skill set. Definitely use tools that enhance the ability, but what you don't have to do, as another metaphor, is be a fish climbing a tree. Right? Use what you were born with. Use tools and techniques that help you follow through with that best skill set.
All right. That should wrap it up then for our Leadership 101 on quiet leaders.
Quiet.
What are we talking about?
So exciting news, alumni. We sold out. Acme sold out.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
a little bit there. Our alumni coaching mastermind event, where we will be having live coaching demonstrations for our alumni only, sold out in the first few days. So pretty cool, very exciting. It definitely communicated a need for more events like this. So it won't be the first and it won't be the last, or it is the first, but it won't be the last. So make sure that if you want to join us and you aren't already an alumni, you sign up for one of our classes and get the opportunity to join us for an amazing alumni coaching mastermind event. We certify coaches in 3 days at Certified Life Coach Institute. And we are award winning and we are full of quiet leaders. And beyond that, let's let somebody else sign off with all the social stuff. You all
Who's it gonna be?
come on now. Make sure you like, subscribe. Jerome,
comment, please like, subscribe, share this with somebody who you think might be interested in the topic. And we will see you guys next Tuesday at the same time, 4 o'clock.
Yeah, next Tuesday we're talking about, okay, and normally not something we love to do, but something we do on occasion. We're going to talk about how leaders might screw it up a little bit without them even realizing it. So sneaky mistakes. So, alrighty.
Right. See you guys next